Hey everybody, this is Jade. I got great feedback from the last video, and it was never my intention to start making these videos. But another issue that was really bothering me, and I really wanted to start a conversation with people about it, is this economic downturn that we're all facing right now. Now, I'm 24, I have a little bit of money in my 401k, and these last 3, 4 weeks have been really, really tough for me. So I can only imagine what it's like for somebody who's 65 and they've been paying into the system for 40, 45 years, and 20% of their life earnings is gone in 2 or 3 weeks. But I can at least understand. But a lot of the economic downturn has been blamed on the subprime mortgage crisis. And, there's been so much that's been thrown around about the real predators. And I've heard so much about Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So what I did was I just sort of did my own research to figure out what was going on. So I'll start from the beginning. I'll be really quick. In 1933, there was something called the Glass-Steagall Act that was passed. Of course, that was after the Depression. It was just a regulatory bill, and one of the things that it said was that commercial banks and investment banks cannot merge. That means that Bank of America and Morgan Stanley, they can't merge together because they're two separate banks and they do two separate things. So what that means, when that regulatory measure was in place, if I wanted to go get a loan, what I would do is go to my loan officer. He would check my Beacon score, check my credit score, make sure that I was a good candidate for a loan. Once he checks that and sees that I am, he sees how much of a loan he can give me based on my credit history. And if I am a good candidate, he would give me that loan, and of course I would make payments on it every month in the form of a mortgage payment with interest, of course, already tacked into my payments. After the Glass-Steagall Act was repealed in 1999, it was something called the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act that repealed it. A guy named Phil Gramm, a Republican from Texas, he was the author of the bill, and the Republican Congress passed it. However, William Jefferson Clinton, who's a Democrat, signed that bill into law, which basically got rid of those regulatory measures and allowed commercial and investment banks to merge. So let's just say I go back to that same loan officer, and I'm looking for a loan. Instead of looking at my credit score, it doesn't matter what my credit score is. I can have room temperature credit. He can give me a deal, no money down, all these ridiculous schemes, because they would expect a payment from me every month with mortgage, of course. But what they would also do is take the equity in the house, they would repackage it and sell it to another investor. And that investor would repackage it and sell it to another sucker, and so on and so on. So what the banks assumed was that they would get a mortgage payment from me every month, and they would get a return from their investments. And that's why it allowed them to make those sort of risky schemes. And ultimately what happened was I didn't have a fixed rate. So of course my mortgage would go sky high. I'd go into foreclosure. But also, as far as the returns, they weren't what the investors thought they were. So they would cut their losses and leave. And so now the mortgage companies are left with, these subprime mortgage losses, which, are at this point for a lot of companies in the billions and billions. And I've heard so much once again about Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, so I just did a little bit of my own research, and I came to the conclusion with my research that Fannie and Freddie were not even in the top 15 companies that are responsible for the subprime mortgage losses. The number one company in this country that was responsible was Countrywide, which, of course, if you guys don't know, went bankrupt earlier this year, and it was bought out by Bank of America. Number 2 was HSBC. Number 3 was Chase Home Finance. Number 4, Wells Fargo. Number 5, American Home Mortgage. Once again, Fannie and Freddie were not even in the top 15 companies that had underwriting losses for subprime mortgage. And I came to question, why is it that they're getting so much blame? I know they are a government-backed mortgage company, and they certainly do hold blame. I'm not saying that, they're without blame, but obviously it's showing here that 83% of the subprime mortgage losses came from private companies. And what I've come to the conclusion is that so many of these politicians, Democrats and Republicans alike, are more concerned with marketing about getting elected than they are about really solving this country's problems. If you sit back and think that Fannie and Freddie are really the main predators with subprime mortgage losses, it's probably because you heard it on television or read it somewhere, but it simply is not true. So what I'll do is just post a link to this article that has a chart that shows in 2008 the top 15 companies. And you come to your own conclusion. The ultimate point of making this video is that I just wanted to say ideology and dogma should not be what drives us as people when it comes to making solutions for problems. If you believe that the trickle down economics works, that's fine, but also let's look at the results. The results for the trickle down economics have been dismal. Period. It doesn't matter how you slice it or dice it. It just hasn't worked. So instead of holding on to a dying ideology, one of the things Ronald Reagan said is that we're in a country where we can have a competition of new ideas. So let's put our heads together. Let's compete for the best idea, because that's really the only way that we're going to solve these problems. And, that's for the right and the left. If you have any other examples that, you can give, feel free. But it just really is unfortunate that we have politicians who, instead of really telling the people the truth, will sit back and continually tell what it has to be. They have to know they're lying. And ultimately, I think what the good thing is that we have YouTube. We have so many different ways that we can find media and find out the truth. And hopefully this will help educate you. If you have anything that you'd like to say or anything that I left out, feel free. I'll be more than happy to come through and update it. But once again, thanks for watching. I hope that you guys have a good day.